Welcome to the Ultimate Radio Menu introduction video. I know you're excited and eager to start using the Ultimate Radio Menu in your project, so let's get started right away. To begin, let's briefly go over the scripts and their inspectors to see how you can customize the radio menu to look and function the way that you want. The Ultimate Radio Menu asset is made up of 3 different scripts. All have custom inspectors to help display the options available to you. If you want to learn more about any option on the component, simply hover your mouse over the scripts and a tooltip will be displayed. It's worth noting too that some of the sections display gizmos that can help visualize the option that you are modifying. So now let's go over each script and see what they do. The Ultimate Radio Menu is the main script, which contains the core functionality of the radio menu. It takes care of all of the buttons and how they handle the input that are sent to them. Let's look at the inspector to see what it has. So we can see that the Ultimate Radio Menu Inspector is divided up into 4 different sections: Radio Menu Positioning, Radio Menu Settings, Radio Button Settings, and Script Reference. The Radio Menu Positioning section is where all of the variables are located that take care of sizing and positioning the radio menu on the screen. It also handles the size of the buttons, the radius of the menu, and some of your input settings for the menu. The Radio Menu Settings section is where you will find options that affect the radio menu as a whole. Things like color and sprites of the radio buttons, how the radio menu is enabled and disabled visually on the screen, and any text that is displayed in the center of the menu. The Radio Button Settings section handles all of the individual information about each button. Here you can find options for things like name, description, icons, text, creating and deleting buttons, and more. The Script Reference section provides example code that can be copied and pasted into your own scripts. Simply name your radio menu and copy the code provided. Please keep in mind that you will need to change some of the generated code to your own functions and variables, but we will discuss this in greater detail in another video. It's also worth noting that when selecting an Ultimate Radio Menu prefab in the project window, the inspector will have a button that allows you to create that radio menu in your current scene. These prefabs can be found at Ultimate Radio Menu, Prefabs. The Ultimate Radio Menu Input Manager is a smaller, lightweight script that has been separated so that it is easier to understand and modify if necessary. The Input Manager currently supports keyboard and mouse, as well as controller input, with more device support being planned in the future. The inspector has been left almost completely untouched to make it easy to add functionality if need be. Also, it's worth noting that if multiple radio menus are present in the scene, a new option will come up on the Input Manager that you're selecting that will allow you to make one of them a Master Input Manager, which will control the settings of the other input managers in the scene. The Ultimate Radio Menu Pointer is the last script, and it is an optional component that handles the center image and how it will point to the selected radio button so that the user has more visual feedback when using your radio menu. If you look at the inspector, you can see that there are 2 sections with very simple options of how to get the pointer working the way that you want. So now that we know what components we have available, let's see it in action. Let's load up the example scene at Ultimate Radio Menu, Examples, Capsule Man Item Pickup. If you press play, you can see that we can move our character around and pick up items. And if you press the space bar, you can see that they get added to our radio menu. We can click on the items and use them. After all those items are used up, the item gets deleted off the radio menu. This example demonstrates how you can use the radio menu dynamically when picking up items and adding them into your inventory. To see how the Ultimate Radio Menu works for adding in items to specific slots or using the radio menu for a weapon selection, load up those example scenes and check them out. All of the example code has been commented so that you can see what exactly is going on. The last thing that we want to show you is the Ultimate Radio Menu window, which is where you most likely found this video. It can be called up at any time by going to Window, Tank and Healer Studio, Ultimate Radio Menu. This window has useful links to the online documentation, our YouTube tutorials, and our contact form, just in case you get stuck. Thanks for watching this introduction to the Ultimate Radio Menu. In the next video, we will go over how to implement the Ultimate Radial menu into your custom scripts.